Okay, so we're going to start off with the email integration. Whether you have 365 or Google, the setup is the same. So if you are not authenticated yet, then you can click on your profile picture, go to profile, and scroll down till you see 365 or Google, and then click the authenticate button. This will ask for your email client's login credentials to accept the permissions to authenticate. A good sign that it has been completed is that you'll have a time and date stamp. It'll say your permissions have been granted. And then also in the upper right-hand corner, you will see the word docket instead of task. So that's the initial setup on using the email integration. The email integration is set up of three pillars, being calendar, email, and documents. So the first being we'll speak about emails is you can now capture emails used from your email client. You can send it from inside of, we'll stick with Gmail for this purpose, and you can also send it from inside of Clockwork. So the system captures the emails on a every 2-hour timestamp update. And the candidate should already be inside of Clockwork to capture. If the email is not inside of Clockwork, it will not capture the email thread and pull it into the system. So in order to find those emails, you can, instead of searching through your email client, you can actually look at a person, go into their record, and inside their record, there is an email tab here on the far right. And you'll be able to have an email tab and it'll show all of your actual email threads with this person.
Is there any benefit to sending emails through Clockwork instead of Outlook? And will it all sync up regardless of whether we're sending it directly from there or our emails?
Yes, so it will capture whether you send it inside of the application or through Gmail. The benefit of it is you actually don't have to leave Cloudwork to do these things. So inside that same record that we're sending the email from, we can use it here as a email tool. As you can see, there's the different conversations. And at the bottom right of this, there's a blue circle with an envelope, and you can send the email from inside of here. You can use the CC. You can use the template option. So if you have a common message you like to send, you can set up a template inside of Clockwork, and you can use the template there to pull out that message. And then you can also add attachments as well, just like a regular email. And then again, once that's sent, even if you send it from this panel, it will still capture on its own timeline of the actual time frame that we previously seen. You do have, with this integration, because it is connecting directly to your email client, if you're sending a one-off email, or let's say you are sending a bulk email, we select multiple people, we use the email option inside or outside of a project. You still have the template option, and you can send out the email. The email will go out as if it came from your actual Gmail, but it will not show in your sent folder because it is still using a third party to send it out in mass. So if you are sending the email from inside of your own person, the candidates panel, then you will see that show in your sent folder. But if you're using a bulk option, it will not show in your sent folder. But from there, you can also use the mail analytics to be able to track if it was sent, who opened it and who delivered and who received it. So you will have that option if you are sending through bulk, and you can do this from PeopleView or within a project.
Is it possible to set up reminders for follow-ups after sending either any email or a business development email?
Yes, so setting up a reminder, we would actually start inside the profile again, where you have a section to actually toggle on these reminders, and you can set as many as you need to, and you can set those by weeks, days, minutes, or hours. Inside of Clockwork, you can have an email notification You can have an in-app notification, which is the pop-up that we'll see here at the top for a few seconds. And then you have a web push notification, which is essentially a browser notification. So if you're on a different website and you have a web push set up, it'll pop up through the browser because of this notification. If you are using a web push notification, you just be sure to subscribe to the push notification so you can tell your browser to allow these kind of pop-ups. But once you have this and you have the 365 or Gmail integration set up, when you put anything on your calendar that's synced, it'll also show in the docket here in the upper right-hand corner. So those alerts will be triggered by these notifications up here. But you can also create a task or what we call an event, which would be a meeting inside of the application. And creating it here as well will also link to your calendar, and your task reminders will also let you know when that time frame is coming up.
When you're sending out emails, can you integrate a Zoom link?
When you're sending out these this way, Zoom is not an option because again, it is syncing to either Gmail, which will use Google Meet, or it is syncing to 365, which uses Teams. So a workaround that I've seen is that some people are actually filling out the context of the meeting, who it's about, the date and time, and then in the description area, you paste in that meeting link here. So when it sends out to the calendars, it'll automatically have that link inside the description as well. So that's a good way to add Zoom into this.
How come when I send an email from my Outlook, I don't see it in Clockwork?
So that goes back to there's two reasons on this. One, it's either the timestamp has not updated or that candidate's email was not in the system when it went looking for that actual capturing. So those would be the two main reasons why you're not seeing an email logged inside the person's record.
And how long is that delay for the timestamp?
It's going to be 2 hours from your last timestamp update.
Okay.
So if like, right, so like if you're sending this email, you have to, it'll take this timestamp to update, not from the 2 hours you sent it. So it has its own kind of set time frame of when it's capturing. And a small last plug here, I would encourage adding your email signature from your client into Clockwork. So when you are sending out emails, your signature will also follow and it'll keep that congruency from your client to Clockwork. Inside of the events view. So inside of events, you can actually have a system notification letting you know what was processed, what was marked, and if it's actually still the integration is still successful. So you also can track that here. Your events is a full trace log of everything that's happening inside of Clockwork. So you can use this to say events related to notes, candidates, reports, the email integration, projects, or other. You can then filter it by all team members or someone specifically, and then you can also use a date range. So for example, if I wanted to use an event related to a report, and let's say I couldn't get a hold of, let's see, who has a report here? Or let's use, oh, Bruce here. So let's say I couldn't get a hold of Bruce, so I wanted to find a report he's exported before. I can filter by these options, get a date range if I need to, and the export is still hyperlinked, so I can then click on it to view it and download it if this is the report I need. So it's a good way of keeping track and also finding information on your own without having to maybe find someone or wait for someone. It tracks logins. It even tracks if your client has logged in yet, or even if the client has not logged in or taken any steps yet. So this all is tracked within the events view. At the top here, this is some internal tracking for your team. So for this example, we have note activity, and it can be broken down by every user or client to be able to see what kind of notes are being left, how often you can view them specifically, and you also have a chart down here that's able to be downloaded as you view this. You can export this for yourself as well. In the upper right-hand corner, you can again get more specific on what you're looking for when it comes to the note activity, and maybe you want to check out your own stats and see how you're leaning, or maybe the way you're contacting people. Maybe you're not doing enough calls, you want to do more calls. You can actually sort that for yourself. There's a drop down here with no activity, which shows all of the other different internal options. Another you can see is project activity. You can see how many candidates were added to the project, removed, the projects that were created by someone specifically, and a view of status changes. So this is a big grouping of those actual internal stats. And anytime you want to actually take a look at this from uh, outside of a project. Now, navigating inside of a project, there is a space for that as well, and it's called the internal view. So as I navigate into my project here, there is in this panel here on the left, this dark gray area, there is internal. Now, internal is again for yourself as users. And so you can upload any documents here for yourself. You can also see some of the project activity. And this is just like the events page. You can then filter by notes, candidates, or other, perform by anyone that has made changes on this. And then again, a date range where you can actually check to see if things have how things have moved or been changed. So if a candidate was moved to a different status, it would also track that as well by seeing what their previous status was and then what it was changed to, and if someone left a note on that person as well. And it shows on the right side who that candidate was. So those are your big at a high level, your internal events and tracking, doing that from outside of the project and more specifically inside of the project to keep track of the changes if you need to go back and find those things. So while we're in the project, we're going to now go into Gridview here, and we're going to talk about the actual movement of candidates and statuses.
Okay, so looking at Gridview, I'm assuming that this is kind of the best way to manage and organize all of my candidates on a project, right?
Yes. So Gridview is overall the best place for candidates. First being that if you do have more than 50 candidates in a project, you don't have to click between pages. It's an all full screen scroll, and you can just find everything you need here. Um, Grid view is also the actual setup of grid view. So you have a gear icon here. And so when you pick the columns you want to show in the actual view here, and then you can click and hold the headers, you can rearrange them to the way you see fit. And then you want to hit save as your default here. And this saves the views and changes specifically for each user. So it's a good way to actually personalize what you want and how you like things set up. But of course, if you're changing statuses or visibilities, that's going to show for everyone. It's more of the setup and style that is more personal to you as a user when you save it that way.
Okay, so if I wanted to set this up whatever way works best for me, it's not going to change Rachel's view, is it?
It won't, no.
Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So also in here in grid view, it's really beneficial here because you can make one-off changes, but you can also make a lot of bulk changes in here. So if I were to change, let's say, select these two, at the top here, I have the option to change both of their statuses at one time. I have the option to, actually, I'll change it to this, make them both visible or take away their visibility for clients. And then you have an add button as well here where you can add maybe a bulk note to them, maybe add a task for both their records at one time. And so you have a lot of bulk options here in a way to make changes. As you can see now, it says second interview and the visibility has been removed. So you have the option here to make a lot of changes in bulk and to save you some time instead of doing a lot of one-off tasks as you're going through here once you have candidates added here. So also on here, on the very far right of the screen, you have a blue tab that says Search Candidates. So this is a very good searching tool. The filter here on the left is looking for more keywords. So this one might bring up a lot of different orders of things depending on what you're looking for. But on the right here in this panel, you have an area to search specifically names. Then again, you have your keyword search that can pull up a lot of things. And then you can also filter by statuses. So this gives you a very filtered result to get more specific on what you're looking for when it comes to candidates in the grid view.
And this is
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
searching candidates on this project that we're looking at, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's searching all candidates here. And then you can also choose between visibility. So if you want to find everyone that's maybe not visible now, you can also do that too. And maybe you need to go back and add notes, something like that. So it is looking specifically at this project. Is navigating to Longlist. So Longlist, this is a very good starting point once you're set up. This is the build of this was for benchmarking. And so this is to get a good feel for the kind of candidates a client wants or looking for in a project. Once this is here and you invite the client and you make this visible, the client then has an option to provide feedback on these candidates if they like them, thumbs up, thumbs down, and they can add a comment asking maybe more questions about them, or maybe they want to see something else specifically. Then you can then click on the gear icon and you can make some of those things visible if that is what you want to do for the client at that time. So this grid is also controlled by these options here, and you can also choose to make all of the candidates visible or only the visible candidates here. So
Okay.
right now I only have the visible candidates, so that's what's reflecting.
So all of the work that I'm doing in Gridview to manage my projects gets reflected here in Longlist in terms of candidates. And then I just share this screen with my clients to give feedback.
Yeah, exactly. And as we've seen, Gridview ate up the entire page and provide a lot of data. Starting out, you typically might not want to do that. You want to just provide, hey, look at these details for the client. And so you can actually kind of shrink their focus into long list here to get a better feel for what they want as you start to progress through the actual your process here.
So the thumbs up, thumbs down, there's a little number next to it. What is
Mhm. So if you have multiple clients, you'll be able to know and hover over it to see who actually gave them that thumbs up or thumbs down. And on the far left side, the ones with the red dots, these icons next to their name, these are letting you know that there is a brand new note on that person that you haven't viewed yet. So once you view it, it'll remove that red dot next to their name. So this could be from another team member or it could be from a client. So it's a good indicator letting you know, hey, there's a new note here.
Right. And if my client was in this view, looking at kind of an initial long list that we put together,
Mhm.
um, how would they kind of view the full candidate profile?
Yeah, so in this view, it's just as simple as clicking on the name.
Okay.
We'll open up a panel here. And so because I am a user, I am getting a full detail of this.
Mhm.
Again, for the client, it's whatever is made visible here. So if the client was to click on the panel and some of these things were not made visible to them, then the panel will be a lot shorter and a lot smaller, right? So it's all about what you made visible, but they can simply click on just like the name of the person and open up that panel from their end of things.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this is how I would present my long list to my clients. That's great. Now, in terms of getting to a short list, how would I use this view to present it to my clients, or is there a different place that I can provide a little bit more candidate detail and context around the shortlist candidates.
Yeah, so status report is the answer for shortlist.
Mhm.
This one here, this lays it all out in a more, I would say, cleaner, less grid look here, and you're able to break everyone down by statuses. So this is really good. So for long list, right, we had a bunch of people in. If for shortlisting, we want to, again, close that funnel for the client. So we can do that in status report view by clicking on the gear icon on the far right, and then we go to page settings. So right now I only have finalist or closing showing here. And so I only have 6 candidates showing. Starting out, you may have nothing selected here. And if nothing is selected, then all statuses with the candidates visible will show. So if we are specifically looking to shortlist, we want to just go finalist here. And we only want to show visible candidates. So now that we have the finalists showing and we hit save, we get down to just the two, right? We can really shorten that down. The client can go look anywhere else. So we want to then stay inside the gear icon for the section settings. And from here, we can choose two note types to present in this format. So maybe it is an assessment note you want the client to see, and maybe a next step, or maybe even an overview note that you want them to see. Whatever is visible in the most recent note type of this will show in this actual view. So when you do that, you can also have the note author. So whoever created the note, you can actually hide who created it and the date, and it can just be a standard note there for the client to see. And then just like the other pages, you can actually control the actual visibility of what data and what information is being seen by the client. If you were just going through, let's say you remove the photo for just your view and not the client's, then you will get an alert at the top of the screen letting you know the client can still see that. So you will have a nice reminder there if you just happen to click it off for yourself, and it's still visible for the clients. So once we have what data we want presented to the client here, the last thing I would encourage and to make sure you do is there's this button here with the two arrows, one pointing up, one pointing down. That is the sort option. So you can have them sorted by, I believe the default is by name, and the name being their last name. So if a person is in here sorted by that, they might not meet the actual setup that you have in Gridview, how we have everyone from 1 down to 17. So we want to make sure we are using rank as a sort option so it meets the actual qualifying order of your grid view in your project.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's the way we want to make sure we set that up. And then we want to go ahead and click save so it reflects what we have and what we want to present to the client.
Okay. And I saw in those settings back there for status report, you can sort or organize by color coding. Is that right?
Yeah, so that's inside of the page settings.
Mhm.
There's a different display by
Okay.
being the color category that you're using and that you're giving an index to. And you can also sort by rating from the research criteria. So those
Okay.
are the other three ways, but typically it is based off of status, but you do have that range to choose from.
Okay, it's good to have that flexibility because our firm we have color codes, and those are somewhat related to statuses, but sometimes different. So Rachel, that would be a good thing for us to have and organize in this view.
Awesome. So while we're talking about this as well and what we're displaying to the client, um, specifically, let's look at Warren here, and we want to present a note to the client, right? So in this space, when we're inside of a project and we're leaving a note on a candidate here, we at the bottom right, we have our plus symbol here to create a new note. For this panel, we can drag the end out to make it give it more space. The text box here as well, in the very bottom right, there's a little couple slashes here. This allows you to open up the text box as well if you have a lot to say in here but don't want to do a lot of scrolling. And then at the top, you can see the previous notes before entering your new note. So when we're leaving a note on a person inside of a project, you have all these drop downs and buttons at the bottom. The left being if you want to use a template. So if there are common questions you like to ask a candidate, I would encourage creating a template with those questions, pulling it up here. So when you're speaking with the candidate, all you have to do is put in your answers. Saves you some time, save you some bandwidth as well. And then you want to select the note type. And the note type is really important, especially for this example, because if my note did not have a note type here, it would not reflect here in the status report. So we want to make sure our notes have note types on this so we can choose if we want to show those notes to the actual client. So you have your list of note types as well. The last drop down on the right is showing where this note is being filed. So because I'm inside of this project or wherever you're creating the note, it's going to be the default option for that note. So as I'm putting in a note here and I select to put this in his person record, this is a note relevant to Warren, not related to any projects. I can select that and once we hit save in his notes, we still see all the same notes here, but you can see this one was filed in this project and this one is related just to Warren. So there's a difference in Clockwork where there is a candidate record and there is a person record that has nothing to do with an actual project.
So just thinking about notes here, and the client portal, which we discussed previously, will my clients be able to see all of my notes on my candidates?
Not all of the notes. And that's a great question because when we're looking at the notes here and once we put it into a person record, there is no visibility toggle at the bottom of it. So that's a good indicator to let you know. But once you create a note in a project, you can see there's a visibility toggle to make that note visible for the client to see it. All defaults for the notes is off, is not visible. So you will have to actively make that note visible for the client to be able to see it. There's two buttons down here as well, email team and email client. So if these are selected and I leave a note in here and I save it, this note will be emailed to the team members on this project and all clients associated with this project. And so once they receive that note via email, the client can reply to that email and their reply will show in the note section. So it's a good way for the client to be able to respond to your note without having to log into Clockwork. So that's a good reason to have them invited and activated in the platform so they can receive these notes and reply without maybe they're traveling or something. They can get a response back to you.
And that whole thread, if my client does reply within that email, gets appended to this candidate in this project, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be attached to this. If it was this one, it'll attach this and you'll have a reply notice there. And so you'll be able to click on it and see the reply.
Okay.
Yep. Also, when you're in the panel, this green bar on the left is letting you know that that is visible for the client to see it. So there's a ni nice highlighter next to the project there.
And then I'm assuming if so
No.
I had that note visible and then I wanted to remove it from the
Mhm.
portal, could I take it down or is it stuck there on the portal forever?
So you can either turn the visibility off for
Okay.
that note, but you also have a menu option on the far right to delete it. So you do have those two options, but typically just turn off that toggle so your team can be aware of the progress there and
Okay.
not make it visible for the client.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll delete this one just so you can see there's another confirmation delete here and then removes from there. Yeah. So just to reiterate, there is a person record and a candidate record when it comes to notes and what notes can be visible.
Okay.
And then a quick question about colors. So I've noticed a few things. What is the red symbol next to this person's name at the top?
Yes. So the suitcase, you will either see this being green or red. If it's green, that means they're only associated with one project. And if it's red, then they're associated with multiple projects. So you can always hover over it and see which projects those are, and you can dive into them because they are hyperlinked.
And the green dots that are on their pictures, what do those?
Yes. Those are visibility, that they are made visible for the client. Yeah. Awesome. So with that being said, talking about a person and a actual candidate record, we're going to take a step back here and we're going to navigate to the people view so we can actually discuss the search function and how to get candidates into your projects. So the search function here and the functionality is around um, you have a quick search bar here at the top, and then you have a keyword search here, which is different. So the quick search here at the top, this one here is used really, really well for names, emails, phone numbers. When you're looking for a person. You can also use the drop down on the right to look for projects, companies, schools, and deals, but we're going to stick with people here, which is the default. So when you're using this search, our setup is based off of the first three letters while you're searching. So if I go to spell my name and I use DA, nothing is going to happen until I either use a space, maybe the name stops here and I use a space to give it its third letter, or I put in the third letter and it'll start producing the result. So the first three letters on first and last name really expands and focuses the search to begin that process on what it's looking for. And the keyword search below this that you can find in People View, this one, when you're using this keyword search, it's looking through the entire record of everyone involved here. So if, for example, I use marketing, and when we're doing this, using it this way, we have to hit enter on our keyboard once. So the application can know we're done spelling that word, and then we hit it a second time to produce the actual search. And now we're down to 234 people that have marketing somewhere in their record, whether it be their tags, their work history, their notes, just looking through their entire record. So once we're using these keywords here, we can hover over their profile picture or initials in the grid to see how that's being used and how often that keyword is being used in this search.
Right.
And so while we're looking at this and maybe we want to get more precise, we can click on the plus here at the end of the keyword search to add a Boolean. It's going to open up this panel on the right and automatically give you an and. So we can use marketing, and then I like to use California here. And so now I have 52 records out of 1,200 that has marketing and California somewhere in their record. And so I like to use this example here because when I hover over gap K, I can get multiple marketings in here, but the only California is University of California. So it's a great reminder that it's looking through all areas within their record to find these keywords. With the Boolean as well, again, if we want to get more and more precise, we can keep dropping those ands there. You can also use an or here, and you can also use not. So if you want someone that has marketing, but nothing about California in their record, you can use it that way as well. Um, what we want to make sure we avoid while doing this is that we want to make sure we stay away from, if I use marketing, then I use California, we're going to get a higher result because it's automatically going to read it as marketing or California.
Okay.
So we want to make sure we're using one word per line here to get our best and most precise result on what we're looking for when we're using the keyword search.
Right. So that's Boolean for keyword searches. Can I use like Boolean methodology with like tags? So for example, if I want to search for like somebody that was tagged with marketing or something else.
Yeah, so so you can use the keyword search and the tags together. So if you wanted to use someone, like you said, if we had marketing, And then we can use the tag here, someone that's in marketing that also has will produce some results here as well. So now we got down to 158. So you can use these together. Um, and while we're on that topic, the filters themselves, they work the same as the Boolean search. So for example, if I use advertise, and maybe I want to find someone that has another tag on their record, I want to still use the same ad criteria to get that Boolean of an
Okay.
and then I can go and find the other tag I want to use. And so now I have 22 people that have marketing somewhere in their record that also are tagged with mark advertise and a fintech.
Okay.
So it has a congruency of the search to the filters to be able to use them the same.
So the same would go for all of those, meaning like job title, if we want to look for a VP and a chief of staff.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, if we go to job title, we can um, put in chief here, hit enter so we can let the application know we're done spelling that word or using that word. We can say if this person is currently has this in their title, and we can select their duration of years as well. And then we can apply that, and then the job title will be used. And then we can use an and to use another one to look through their entire work history. With that being said, and I know we used marketing as the example, if you are looking specifically at more of work history, like a job title or maybe a company someone worked at, the filters are the best option for this. Your keyword search it would be maybe too broad in that aspect of what you're looking for. Because if I use marketing and you can say in the notes of someone, I met this person at a marketing event,
Mhm.
they're also going to show up in your keyword search. So if we were looking at more job title or company or even tags, we want to make sure we use the filters till it can look specifically in those areas. So another filter I like to use here, I like to detail here is the settings filter. So this filter is a really good tool for maybe cleanup or just to kind of find out what you have. When you use the settings filter, we can say has email or we'll use has LinkedIn. And I leave the toggle as no. Once I apply that, it's going to filter everyone in my database where I don't have their LinkedIn. Maybe I can go find it and pull it in and pull it over, bring it over. So in here, you can also use the same thing for phone numbers, maybe emails. It's a good way to kind of find out what you have there and to be able to use that. I've learned that some users have also been using as a client and they toggle this yes and they apply and it filters by everyone that they've invited as a client in here. And so once they have that full list, some people like to select all, maybe add them to a project. But cool tip here that I learned that some people they use this option, they use the bulk email, and maybe they send a nice happy holiday message to all their clients at the end of the year. So it's a good tool for that as well. But settings ultimately, in my opinion, is a very good tool to know what you have and if you maybe need to clean some things up inside your database.
Okay, yeah. That client select all bulk email feature, Rachel, we can use that for our placement announcements when we close a search.
Yeah, to be clear, it's any time they were a client ever or they are currently a client.
Anytime that invite, so when you invite a client and it stays there, they're going to show up. So if you invite a client and you delete the client account or remove them from it, they won't be in there. So as long as they are at any time still a client, they're going to show up
Yeah, that's great.
in that result. Yeah.
For example, in people, when I'm searching for people, is there a way to see like relationships between people who worked at the same company or during overlapping time periods in Clockwork?
Yeah, so I believe there's two ways to get that done to look at it. So like you said, I believe company is a great use for that because when you look up a certain company then apply that. You're able to use that, but you can also use a date and time frame of when they were at that company. So
Okay.
you can also use a starting date and end date, and you can find people that overlap there. That is a more of a based off of work history kind of setup.
Hmm.
But we also have, and this has to be first generated within the record, is that we have a relationships card. And so inside the person's record, we scroll down here, there's going to be a relationships card here.
Okay.
And when we're here, we can actually use this and say, relationship type, this person was replaced, replaced by, overlapped with, knows, or managed, directly managed, friend of, referred. So you have a lot of options here to boost that relationship. And so let's say this person overlapped with uh, Omar, and you can put the start time and end date if that is when they overlapped, right? So you can actually get more specific on that time frame, knowing that. And then once you hit save, they'll be registered here showing their title company and their relationship and the start and end date of that overlapping. So but this one here, you again, you will have to enter this in, and then you can be able to later on use it as a filter option to find people. But I think the actual company filter will give you a kind of already baked in setup based off of the work history. So
Okay.
those would
And
be your two options.
uh, so going back to tags, I had a couple questions about tags too.
Mhm.
Do those tags show up on like status reports? So can my clients see tags if they're logging in?
The tags, no, the tags are more for, don't show up on reports, but as you open up an actual record, their tags there are actual in the panel.
Okay. All right.
So you have that, but if you're trying to, it doesn't translate into actual reports there.
Okay. All right. And then on our last call, you talked about custom fields, I think it was.
Mhm.
What's the difference between custom fields and tagging?
Yeah, so custom fields and tagging can go hand in hand when we're talking about a person record.
Hmm?
I do like custom fields a little more because, and you do have to navigate again into the firm settings, and there's a custom fields tab here. So custom fields, in my own words, is a cleaner way of tagging. So from the tags page, as I'm sure you already know, you have to go in and you have to create a new tag first before using and adding it to a person. Now, using a custom field, this gives you a different look at it. And so I believe also with a larger team, this actually helps with a lot of your data integrity. Because if we use a custom field and I'm going to give it a different title here. Let's say the custom field, it can be related to a person, project, deal, or company, but we're going to stick with people because that's like the main high majority use. And so now for field type, you have single select, multiple select, or text field. So if the option only gives you, you only select one for it, then single select, but if you can choose multiple, multiple select there. Text field gives you a space here where you're able to enter in the data, but that kind of defeats the purpose, in my opinion, if you do have a
Yeah.
list of options. So let's say we'll go with multiple select here and we'll put in our options. So you enter in your list of options on its own line, as the pretext says, and I'm just going to enter in the ones we have here. So we enter in our list here, and this is where I really like custom fields. When you put in the options here, no one can go in tags and create different ones. They all have to choose from a preset list that's already created.
Okay.
So it gets rid of any shorthands or misspellings or things like that. They can all go through a preset list to select it. The other big thing I like about this is that when you select include on dashboard and you save it, so once you save the custom field, the next part of this, just like tags, is that you're able to go into a person's record and you can add that custom field onto their actual profile. So I'm going to stick with Nicole here. And so in her record, there's going to be a custom fields card. I can click on that to select, and I get my selections, right? And I can say maybe she's in financing, hotels, real estate, right? And I can apply those custom fields and save them to her record.
So
You
I
can,
can
yeah,
I can see there that you've also got a custom field for gender.
yeah.
Am I able to filter on custom fields? Say, for example, if we have a client that's only interested in looking at an all-female candidate slate, can I just quickly search for female candidates using that custom field?
Yes. So your custom fields also become filter options. So in this panel here with the blue search people, there's these three vertical lines here. That's your filter toggle. And so once you create that, you can then turn on the custom field as
Okay.
an option, and then you can use your choices to apply to the search result.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So tags, it seems, is not as clean because anyone can go on that. Anyone has access, all the users, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
And custom fields, only the admin and the partner. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, what if I spend a lot of time creating this filter list? What if I want to refer to it again later on? Is there a way to save them?
Yeah, so you can do that from making your changes or maybe searching keywords. You have a save view here on the right once you have your search and your filters the way you want them. And you also have it inside this panel here. So to your point, if I was looking for an all women's list here, I can apply that and I can click save view and I can save, add a name or possibly make it my default when I'm looking through my different lists, and so I don't have to always jump through different filters or type in the same keywords. I can then use a full view of my different saved options.
And so those save views that we're looking at, they are dependent upon the filters that we covered. Are
Mhm.
they updated dynamically, or is it just kind of like a static list of people in that moment that meet those criteria?
Yeah, so they are saved dynamically. So as long as they meet the criteria for what is selected, it'll
Right.
always put in a new person. It won't stay the same from when you actually saved it.
So, for example, if I wanted to create a view that shows me clients only, I'd be able to do that. And then any new
Yeah.
clients we invite to a project or add to Clockwork would show up on that list.
Yep,
Okay.
exactly.
Right.
The last thing that I really enjoy about the custom fields is that I'm just going to select a few people here, and then I can actually add the custom field to them in bulk instead of going into their profiles individually. So I can select the ones I want. I can use bulk edit here in the middle, and then I can find the actual custom field here, apply, hit save, and it'll add the custom field to all the records at once. And so once you do that, and you're tagging them, this is the other part really like custom fields over tags is because once I take these people here, these candidates, I add them to the project. Now, once I add them to the project on the actual project dashboard, that actual custom field becomes a chart that I can track inside my project. Tags does not allow you to do that.
Okay.
But when you're looking inside of your project, we use the gear icon to go and find the one we want. We hit save, and then our custom field here will be at the bottom. I'm going to expand this a bit. My mouse, my mouse won't allow me.
Friday.
Yeah, but yeah, so but you're still able to track the custom field chart by seeing I have four candidates in here that have the custom field of restaurant, finance, or marketing. And so this is also a good tool where you can also make this visible for clients. And so you're able to actually expand this and your clients can also track who you have in this project based off maybe diversity or maybe industries or whatever custom field you have set up in your firm.
And again, this is just looking at the candidates on this project, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Rachel, this would be a good use case for surfacing gender requirements for our searches and some of our clients because that's really important to them. So we'd probably want to add that gender card here somewhere just so our clients can see kind of like the talent pool in general in terms of who's on this search, who's on this project, and then the division of male versus female candidates.
Yeah, I really like that a lot.
Mhm.
There again is the progression of statuses. And you've mentioned before, like task prompt showing up maybe when you reach out to someone. We do have a feature here that allows you to set up triggers based off of maybe changes or status changes. So in a project, right, we have the list of statuses. So the feature that I'm referring to, and you do need a partner or admin role to access it in the firm settings, is called workflow. So workflow is a trigger based off of statuses for projects or candidates. So in my firm settings tab, there's workflow here at the bottom. Now I have some preset in case you wanted to copy it and use it for yourself, but these are the top three examples and use cases of this tool. The first being the bottom here is I named it sitting too long. This was the original build of workflow. Workflow was used for candidate routing. So if a candidate is sitting at a status for too long, it'll automatically send you a trigger letting you know, hey, these people have been sitting here for however long you say that is too long, right? So for example, the object being, again, you can use projects for candidates. I use the candidate for this one, and the focus is being a candidate status. And you can select multiple. It doesn't have to be just one. You can go through, select all the ones you need and click apply. And then the event will be time and status. And so we would say maybe 3 weeks is long enough for you, right? And so after 3 weeks of a candidate sitting at interviewing, pursuing, or on hold, you will receive a in-app alert and an email of a list of these people immediately, a day, a week, or maybe a year later, whatever that timeline seems right for you. And then you can say everyone on the team should receive this notification. So everyone that's working on that search will be aware that they're still sitting there. Any questions on that workflow?
Or setting these workflows up.
Mhm.
Um, I know it's in firm settings. That's what you clicked on to get there. Can I do it or can Rachel set these workflows up depending upon our process?
Yeah, as long as either one of you has a partner or admin role,
Okay.
you're able to access the settings and get to the workflow. And that's a great point. So once someone sets up this workflow, it is going to, anything change in the firm settings affects everyone immediately. So if Rachel goes in and she sets up a workflow, it's also going to have an effect on you
Okay.
and the projects you're a part of as well. Yeah.
Can I, for example, set myself or Rachel set up or create a workflow and then not turn it on yet? Is that possible?
Yes. So once it's saved in the edit option, you can disable it.
Okay.
And so that basically it'll be grayed out and you're able to then go back and whenever you're ready to enable it.
Okay.
So that's the original build. So the other two that I want to talk about is something you mentioned is there's an option for a task prompt. So for this one, named it follow up. That's typically what we want to do here. Candidate and the status or focus is if someone is placed, a call scheduled, or disqualified. And so once a candidate is changed to either of these statuses, a task prompt will pop up and you can say what you want this to be. And we're going to stick with the follow up here. And so these changes, once saved, these changes are immediate. So let's say we have calls scheduled for a task prompt. So let's say I change Marie here. Where's my status here? And I have call scheduled. So we can use placed. I know that's here. So if I place Marie here, then automatically we get a task prompt that comes up. The type is still follow-up. I can set a date and time, assign it to myself or a team member, and I can then add more descriptions if I need to on why I'm following up. And then we can go ahead and create that task. It'll be associated with Marie here, as we see at the top. And then it'll also trigger those task reminders we talked about earlier as well. And you can either choose to skip that if you don't want to do it yet. But typically, the use case for this was someone was placed. Maybe you want to follow up with them in 30 days or so. So you can set that automatically by just changing the status. Awesome, cool. So since we're in the project now, um, let's just stay on the topic of project dashboard. And so with the dashboard, this really is an internal use for tracking and for client analysis. So again, this is a good way for you to actually track your movements and your process through the actual project. And so, for example, here you also have just the different how many people are in this, how many candidates are in this project. You have them based off of status, the most highly used statuses. You're able to go through this to keep track of it. And for your clients, you can again use the gear icon. And then you can also choose what you want visible for the client to see at any point of the process. So as you can see, the custom fields are only visible for the user side, so they're not ready for the client. But once you are ready to present that, you can just toggle that on and hit save, and they'll also now be visible for the client's view on the project dashboard.
Now, I know it was a Friday and you were trying to make it bigger, but can we move that up to the top so it's
Yeah, so there's this button here. This is your configure customize button, this little hamburger with the 2 points on it. And so once you click on that, everything gets a blue hue around it. You can use the dots here to make it larger or smaller. And then you can also grab that to reorder where it's at on the page. And then you just want to go ahead and hit save. So it reflects that way for you as a user. Just like Gridview, the format and style you have, you're able to actually change that for yourself as a user. Some of these as well have different options on them that allows you to either look at maybe a list, a bar chart, or a pie chart. So you're able to actually make tweaks with those if you want to see them differently or present them differently. Um, the the cool thing about the actual pie charts or things like project summary is that when we look at this, we can see our percentages of candidates in certain status categories. If we click on that, we can actually get a panel that opens with those candidates inside of it, showing their actual status on where they're at based off of where they're at in our process. And so this is also an option that you can make visible for clients. And so this inside the gear icon is called the candidate list panel. So if you don't want that option for clients, you can toggle that off, hit save. And so on from the client side, when they click on anything, nothing opens, it's more read only. So
Mhm.
you can give them that option if you when and if you see fit.
And so looking at these cards in this dashboard for this project, I can see that
Mm,
some of them have a little green dot next to the title. What does that
yeah.
mean?
So the green dots are indicators letting you know that a client can see that card.
Okay.
So like we talked about in the gear icon when we use those toggles, these are all the ones that are on. So if I went ahead and toggled off project summary, hit save, that green dot is no longer there. I'm going to put that back just for my purpose. All right. Um, so yeah, so that's the project dashboard in a whole. Having that here, setting up things the way you like them in your format and your style. But again, it is more just for internal use and client analysis here. There's also a section in here for notes. So if you have a note on or about this project, you can actually put some notes here for the client to see. You can have that there as well.
Where does the docket at the bottom come from?
So the docket, this is related to your actual integration again. So if you're using Google or Google Calendar, you can create a docket and you can put a task or an event related specifically to this project. Maybe you want to meet with a team member about this project. You can go and create an event, and then you can say whatever your title is, and you can make it a call, and then you can add the participants who should be on this call about this project specifically. Cool. So some of these cards here on the dashboard also present themselves in other places in the project. So for example, you have the actual research criteria. So the research criteria is another word, essentially a scorecard, and this can be actually found inside of the position view in a project. So this is the position view. Um, this is where a lot of your job description and requirements can go into. This is where I personally would encourage that you start your search, getting those details in there, being able to enter them in by text, adding in an attachment, a photo if you need to, and you can also hyperlink things here as well. I'm going to just put in a short example here because when you enter in anything in the job description or job requirements, it is click to save. So as long as you click anywhere else outside of the text box, it'll automatically save that job description. And so in this space, job requirements follows the same exact rules. And so the research criteria, again, is a scorecard used. And you can probably get these criteria from a client, but typically it is built off of the job requirements, maybe years of experience or something you're looking for specifically, in a place candidate. So this research criteria, once it's put in, and you can add a weighted value because some criteria might mean more than others, to you or even to your client. And so once you have those criterias in there, and we'll come back to this in a moment.
But before
Yeah.
we do that,
Yes.
can you show us how to add a criteria?
Yeah. So in this space here at the bottom, you can add this yourself. You can give it a title. Maybe that's like 5 years C-suite or whatever that criteria is. You can add a description for more details. And then that's where you can add the weighted value again. Maybe that's not as important as some. And so you can hit save and that adds it to the criteria. And so you can do that there, or if one of the criteria start to mean more to the client, you can always go back and then tweak that weight and provide more value. And the weight is important because when you have the candidates in a project, there is a rating column here where you can go in and you can rate the candidate out of 5 stars, and then that weighted percentage, once you're done rating them that way, gives you a average, and those weights actually control that range. So as you're going through and you're leaving a rating on these, you can leave a comment as to why you rated them this way. My encouragement is coming up with this. If there is a comment as to why or details, have a collaborative thought around this and having one person enter in that detail so it doesn't override or remove anything. You'll be able to get one good comment as to why you rated them this way. Or if that's someone's task completely, then right, up to them. But you can always leave one comment under each level there, and then you can leave a one big general comment outside of the ratings. And so
Does,
that's the research. Yeah,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Does that rating stay with that person's profile forever, or is it just on this project?
it's just on this project. It doesn't follow them anywhere else. Yeah,
So,
because like Diane here, she's on a different project, so she might have a different rating depending on what that criteria is. So it is specific to the project that they're in at that time.
and if I wanted to sort by like top rated candidates for a project, how could I see that?
Yeah, so you can actually use the headers in here to give you your sort options based off that rating. Um, at the risk of hopping around, you can also do that inside of the filters here. There's a candidate rank and there's a rating option where you can then pull up everyone in there based off their rating inside of a project. So you can do that outside the project as well.
So if I wanted to look for any candidate that ranked above 4 stars, for example, I could filter and find all
Right.
of those candidates.
Right. You just shorten that slider down to 4 to 5, and you can say this is a weighted average, and you can apply that, and that'll pull up the 4 to 5s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does it have to be an open project?
It should not be through an open project. It should be based just off of the research criteria.
So in terms of uh scoring or rating these candidates with this research criteria, how do I report on it? Like how do I produce a report or how does that show up for my clients in the collaboration side of things?
Yeah, so at the bottom of the research criteria card, there is a research quality report. By clicking on this, it gives you a nice pop-up of everyone involved in the project, and you're able to easily go through and look at their weighted values based off of the actual criteria, maybe some comments. So they're able to actually see this at a full scale without actually having to leave the page. And this one also has a controllable sort option in the headers. On this page as well, like most of the time or sometimes you might actually have your own criteria, your own job descriptions, but Clockwork has, sorry, was there any other questions on that before I go into the next part?
Yeah, so my other question is how do my clients when they log in, how does that rating show up for them?
Yeah, so for those ratings that actually follow them within the project,
Mhm.
so as we spoke about earlier, clients can see candidates in the long list or status report.
Yep.
So if you are in the long list here, and they click on the person's name, there is going to be she used Diane here, the criteria pops up here in the header now. So it actually shows up here next to their names, and you can highlight the comments will be here as well, but you can also see the ratings on why they were actually ranked that way when they actually go into the panel that's always going to be available to the client
Okay, thank you.
outside of position like we just discussed earlier. Cool. All right, so the next part here is still in position view here, and this one is around the actual generate with Kai. That's Clockwork AI. So this tool is this button will actually be here for project types of retained or contingent. And so when we click on this, it'll ask for some required data that may have been skipped while creating the project for the client company data. So when I click on this, if it doesn't need any of that, it will then generate a rough draft of a job description and job requirement. Now, if you're as a new firm, this is looking at the actual client company we put in here, their data that we put in when we created the project, and then it's looking at the job title. Now, as a new firm, you might not have a lot of projects in there yet. So it's looking at marketing director out of all projects in Clockwork until you start to get enough projects that it can start to look internally and build you out better results when it's pulling up these actual drafts for you.
So it's definitely important that we put our own spin since we're a newer firm on these areas so it can learn from us.
Yes, exactly. And these, even starting out, if you're using it early on, these are still drafts, right? So you can make changes, you can change the numbers and figures so it starts to learn based off of your actual projects. So once you start to make those changes, right, you can highlight things, bullet points, and then below that you have the job requirements. And so this one, you can also make changes here. Maybe you want uh, 10 years, right? And so you can also make a lot of changes here too. And then at the very bottom of this, you can say, I would like to accept either one, accept both, or decline both for this. And so No matter your response here, this tool, once we click next, is also going to generate 5 research criterias based off of the job requirements. So even if I accept it or not, it's still going to take me to that next step. But for this purpose, I am going to accept both, and we're going to click next. And it's going to create 5 research criterias, and they're also drafts here. And so you can make the changes here, right? You can change it in the description, but it's always going to give you 5. And then in this space, you can either accept them all or decline them all. So for this one, I'm going to accept them all. As we can see, our research criteria here has the 3. And as I accept it, it added those to the criteria and it took the remaining percentage and filled it out evenly between the criterias. So as a note and as a reminder that if you do have your own data in, as you can see, my original text here is still there. So no matter what you enter in here, it's only going to add to it. It won't overwrite any of your actual information that exists before using the tool.
What does the drop down copy from mean? What does that
Yeah.
do?
So the copy from is a very beneficial tool that, let's say you set up a criteria that was great in this search, and then you're working in a different one, you can actually use this option here to copy in the criteria from an existing project into a brand new project. So it'll also save you some time if you're working with similar clients on multiple searches, things like that. So that'll definitely save you some time. On this page as well, before questions, is that on the green, you have more of these green indicators letting you know that these are visible for the client. And then you have the gear icon on the page to choose what you want to make visible to the client. And then lastly, you have compensation. So you can put in the compensation for the role. You can a range, you can add a bonus, and if there's equity, uh, in shares, percentage, or cash, you can do that as well. And then you have an area here to add additional compensation if that's included for this role. And then the location of the role as well.
So
Any questions on this?
after we put in the job description, job requirements, and research criteria, is there a way to just like generate a job posting link that I can share with candidates that they can just apply that way, or do I have to download this in a different format?
Yeah, so we do have a job post feature. So on this page here, on the very far right, there's this link icon next to
Okay.
the gear. And so here we can include what we want for that job post, right? So we'll say we want job description, job requirements, compensation, and the firm team. So we want to save what we want first, and then we can generate that job post. So from here, we can actually click on the job post. It's going to pull up everything here. As you can see, my highlighted text here is still there. Company, client and company logo, the name of it, all of the project description and requirements, the salary, because we included that, and then the team members involved on this. So there is that tool. And one note that I want to make here for this is that right now, the actual job description is reading off of the text here. So if you were to upload a job description through an attachment, it will not look inside the attachment. It does have to be in text for it to actually be read and found in the job post.
Okay.
So this tool does go a step further, and at the bottom here, you have a interest form. So once you toggle this on, you can have some required areas here of what you want collected before someone actually submits their interest and becomes a candidate for this role. So the interest form, we can say, I'm going to leave these two as the only required right now. And then we can generate that interest form. And so now that I generated that, my job posting, even if I just refresh this page, still the same, but now at the bottom, there's a submit interest button. And so as I click submit interest, it'll have, as it says optional because I haven't changed anything, but for yourself, all of these can be required. And as they enter in that information of the requirements, then they have to say, I'm not a robot, and then submit themselves as candidates in the projects. And as users, you will receive a notification saying this person has been added to that project, and their candidate status will say interest form, so you know where they came from.
Okay.
So that'll be their default standard if they are uploading themselves through the job posting.
Now, if they're applying through this job posting, you said that it adds them to the project or to the search that we're working on. Does it also add them to like the general candidate database?
Yes, it also fills out your main
Okay.
people database as well.
Right.
So I just
Awesome.
want to make sure I understand. It seems like every time we see green dots by things or that green bar when we were in the notes, it means that a client can see it. Is it ever a different color for clients?
No, it'll always be the green.
Okay.
Great
And
question.
clients can see the dashboard, they can see the status report, but they cannot see grid view and they can see long list.
Yeah, so Gridview is internal for users. And if we go into the admin view, this is also a good um, reminder of what is visible. So inside of admin view, we scroll down to the first toggles. This is the project views visibility. So you do have dashboard, you have status report, long list, position, and strategy. Those are the only five areas that a client can see. And you can control if they see that page entirely or if they only see certain pieces within that actual page. So you can control it from directly on the page, or in admin, you can get the actual full scope of what's being made visible.
So, for example, if I'm towards the end of my search and I want to turn off long list because I don't really need to show them that anymore, can I just turn off that like page view for the client portal?
Yeah, and that's exactly the thought process, right? So once you're ready to shortlist and streamline that, you can toggle off long list. You can go to status report because that's the page that they can see. And then at the very bottom of this panel here, there's a View as Client button, and we can click View as Client to preview what the client would see. And we can see long list is no longer an option here for the client.
This is what now we're okay. So this is what clients see when they quote unquote log in, right?
Yes, this is what they would see. So they would have those out of those options that are made visible. You can view as client, and then you can go and look all around through how the client would see it, how it's portrayed for them. And then same with the position. We left everything visible so they get to see everything. And then strategy is the last piece we haven't covered yet, but they're also able to see strategy view.
Okay. Um, so what do most firms typically like to display in their portal that you've seen?
Starting off in the process, they like to display everything is usually up right away, but when we're talking about displaying something or maybe in the beginning, the real control is below that, and it's the candidate data that's visible to the clients.
Okay.
So starting out, this is my setup here is based off of the typical trends I see starting out. And so starting out, phone number, email, LinkedIn URL usually is not given to the client. That's just what I've seen on my own. If you want that for you, you can toggle that on at any point. So this is typically what is controlled here and what we want to be presented at any time through the process inside of admin view. This is where I think the real control is and what we're displaying. So you have the candidates themselves, the actual pages they can view, the data and their notes are the real visibility controls on what the client sees. And whatever the client sees, you give them the option to see it, right? So
So when they first log in for the first time, what do they see?
yeah. So for clients, They actually get to see, and I have a setup here for you. Give me 1 second. So for clients themselves, when they log in, this is what the clients will see. If they're a part of multiple projects, they get a full list of all of their projects here, and they just have to click on the title and they're landed directly into that project, and they're looking at the dashboard first. So, and again, it's whatever we make visible for them. This is a different search for me, so you can see long list, but that's the first thing that they'll see is just their list of projects, and they're able to go around and navigate to what they want to see within the project. For clients themselves, they have their own profile section here, and they can actually choose what they want to see first when they land inside that actual project. But ultimately, they are landing in this list of which project I should be inside of. There are only one, then of course there'll only be one here. They'll just click on the title, and again, they'll be navigated into the project. So it's very similar to what you see on your side as a user as well. With that covered, now we're talking about inviting clients to look at your project. So with the clients here, on the very far right, mine says clients. If there's no one here, it's going to say no clients. So for this, at the very bottom of it, you have a plus symbol to add a client. So here, before you do this, before you invite a client, I highly encourage that you have this client already in your people database. So they already exist, have a record in your database. So as you're going through and you start typing in their name, they actually do pop up inside of this option here to select, and you can add. Um, Everything else pretty much falls in here. And then as you scroll down, this is the exact message that goes out to the client with your company logo. And so once you do that, once you send this out, you can they click access your project, they enter in a password, and now they have access to the project. So as we go through this and we click invite, we can then get a status of not yet activated. You can also get hasn't viewed yet, or you would get a timestamp of when they last used it. So the first being not yet activated, this means the client has not created a password or hasn't done anything yet. So you can either use this envelope here next to the red X to re-invite them with the same message. Or you can click on this link icon here, which copies the invitation URL. And so you can email the link to them directly and kind of cut out the middleman if you want some more urgency there. Uh, the other option we have here is hasn't viewed yet. So if a client hasn't viewed yet, that means they have created a password. They just didn't click on the project like we seen me do earlier when there was like a list. They just logged in and logged out. So and you will be notified when your clients are sitting at these stages for a while. There'll be a notification sent to you that they haven't logged in yet. And then once they have viewed the project, there's going to be a timestamp on when the last time they actually viewed it. So you're always checking that by, you can see that by minutes, hours, days, months, or years, etc.
And then can you show me again what they see when they log in or what they see when they create an account?
Yeah. So when they create the account, they'll see what we call just the project dashboard. Um, accounts dashboard, sorry. The accounts dashboard is what they see when they first log in. And so if a client created the password, they got to this page and they just logged out, that's where you'll see hasn't viewed yet. So until they actually click on the title, that's when you'll see the timestamp and they've actually viewed the project.
And then if they click on one of those projects, it'll take them to that view that we looked at earlier.
Yes, that'll take them directly into the project. So, and then you'll be notified that the client has actually viewed your project. There is another feature when we're talking about clients here. So if I am inviting a client or if I want to associate a client with a project, again, we still want them in the people database first. So they'll pop up here. I'll use Omar here as my example. And so with this, if I'm not ready to invite Omar yet, but I want to just associate him with this project, use a different email, then I want to use add only. And as you can see, we can't scroll. It gets rid of the invitation message. And when we use add only in add, that just associates them as a client for your record. But as you can see, they were not yet invited. If that changes at any point, you can click on the envelope again next to the red X, and then we can send them a re-invite so they actually get the invitation to the project.
And does that invite come from my email or Rachel's email?
No, it is a system email that goes out to them, but it'll have your company logo, the project details, and their name on it. So it'll still be customized knowing where it came from and from who.
Okay.
The next part here we want to look at is strategy. And this is just for your normal flow as well. So project strategy, this is where I would put, or it's encouraged to put basically your strategy on what you're going to do to close out this search. What angle are you taking? What is your team doing your process, right? Through the strategy, it's also been taken that some users are also using this as like a bulletin board. So let's say uh, 2 days ago, we worked on ABC, and then today, or yeah, today we're working on um, XYZ in the project. So using it this way has also, as I've been told, this has helped people have more collaboration with the client with less phone calls. So the client's able to log into this, look at the date or look at your strategy and find comfort in, oh, this is where we're at. They don't have to go guessing or look for the information. It's always presented within the project strategy.
So this is kind of where we set up our project plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And this is also click to save anywhere else on the page to save it, and then click on it to edit. And you can also add an attachment if you have these things in a different attachment, or if you have it in a different link, you can link it there. But ultimately, this is where you want that information to sit. Project profile. This is everything that is entered when you created the project, or you can always go back and make changes as the process grows. But the big thing I want to talk about here is target list. So target list is putting together a list of companies that maybe you do get from the client or that you think would be within the same industry or that might have good candidates to add to the search. So as I go to add target list here, I can use add by tags and companies, this first option. This first option is going to pull up and be used based off your current company database. So any way you're importing a candidate into Clockwork, that is also filling out your company database with their work history. So for this one, I'll use the title, just for the sake of time here, I'll use this title here. And then I'll pick some companies that I think would be a good fit or would have candidates that'd be a good fit for this search. So I'm just going to go through and select a few here. And we want to apply to say that we're done with this result. So now we have 7 companies added to this. And I always encourage to save and add tags. So if I am working on a similar search that might need the same list, I can find them by the tag instead of looking up all 7 companies or more. So when I click save and add tag, which it already exists. So we'll go one more. And so now my list title is here. I have my companies in this list. And so now I can either click on the company by itself, taking to the people database, and then it'll be filtered by that company, or I can use search all list here on the right. It's going to take me to the people database again, but now it's going to be filtered by all companies that are in a target list. And here I can even get more technical by using a job title marketing, or I can use a keyword search again to use it together. And now I have these four and I can add them to my project. And as I return back to strategy, I can see one of them currently works for this company and four has worked for these companies in the past. And these numbers are hyperlinked. So if I wanted to look at who that is, I can click on that. It's going to navigate me to that person. I can speak with them. And then as I'm going through this list, I can mark coverage to show my client my progression as I'm going through this list. So that is the target list. And so users have been using this a different way that I enjoy, so I like to share it. But they create a target list of more of like if they get note from the client, I do not want people from these companies. They then put together a target list and they call it do not contact or off limits, and they create a target list that way as well. Um, if we are the other way to add companies to your target list is if I'm creating a new target list, I can use the second option here as add by import. So add by import still needs a title, but then I can actually use a CSV of company information. I can drag and drop it into this blue area, and then it'll let me know if it is good to import or not, or what I need to change. I can create a target list based off that CSV import.
So if we wanted to pull a list off of Crunchbase, like
Yeah, and download it as a CSV. You're able to take that and drop it in here and create a target list based off of that. And just like uh, people, when you create your target list based off of those company records, it also fills out your company database on the back end as well.
So then for this target list that we're like looking at, I can use that as like a research coverage report, if you will, for sharing with my clients, right? Just to show them the progress of, okay, we have these companies that we're going to target for sourcing candidates and sourcing talent. I can check the checkbox for marking it complete, or Rachel can do that to mark it to complete. And then we can see current or past, I'm assuming, tells us which candidates currently work there or have worked there in the past.
Yep, exactly. And then if you are making this visible for the client, this comment section is for them. So if they do see that list and they had notes on a company or had something to share with you, they can leave a comment on that actual company as well as they see it in the target list.
and what does search all list mean?
So because you can have multiple target lists here, you can actually use search all list. When you click on that, it's going to take every company in every list and it's going to pull up all candidates that have that company in their work history. So it gives you a wider scope of what you're looking at here.
Okay.
And then could I filter that list?
Yeah, you can filter it by keywords or you can use a different filter as well to keep shrinking that result in
Can we
people
use
view.
that filter panel on the right side that we talked about earlier?
Yep, that's exactly it. So you can
Okay.
use the keyword search or you can use and for the same company filter, or you can use a whole different filter altogether to pinpoint that result on what you're looking for.
So for example, if we wanted again to look for all female candidates on at these
Right.
7 companies, we could do that. Okay. Thank
Right.
you.
Exactly. Yeah. You can use it with those custom fields. Exactly. Cool. And then again, you're probably tired of hearing it, but there's the green dots. Those are your indicators again. And then you have the gear icon on the right if you want to make those changes specifically on this page only.